Hi everybody, welcome to Shivers. With the new movie Until Dawn coming out this upcoming Friday, it's only right for talking about all of the Supermassive games. So we're going to go in order from oldest game to newest, all under the Supermassive Games. So Supermassive Games is this gaming company. The majority of the games that they make are sci-fi, suspense, thriller, horror. And so when it comes to us and the Shivers genre in general, I am a very, very big fan of these games because not only are they beautiful, but they're also just wonderful stories. They are really known and have really captured this subcategory of choose your own adventure. So when it comes to their very first game in this category, we have Until Dawn. So they hired real actors, real people. Hayden Panettiere is in it. Rami Malek is in it. Megan Martin from Camp Rock is in Until Dawn. This is all for a video game, and this came out in 2015 exclusively for PlayStation. So many people ran and rushed to get PlayStation 4 so that they could play Until Dawn, me being one of those people. Yeah, being a fan of horror movies and always that idea of what would I do in a horror movie, I think is what makes these games even more fun because you really do feel like you're a part of it. You are actively making these decisions on if these characters are going to live or die or see the repercussions of the actions that they've chosen ahead of time. I think it's really just genius. So, starting with Until Dawn, the whole story of Until Dawn is that we have these group of teenagers going up to this wintertime cabin, and very long story short, there's lots of missing people. We find out that in the mountains where the cabin is, there are all of these Wendigo. So it's all these people who have gotten lost on their hiking adventures, have gotten lost in the woods, lost up at the cabin, have turned then to cannibalism, thus turning them into Wendigo, which is the actual story of the folklore of Wendigo. So now we're facing this idea of what's going to happen to all of our characters, who's going to live and who's going to die. And with everybody splitting up, we get to see everybody's different perspective. So that's really where we started. And I think that this was a great example of a subversion movie because we begin by thinking that there's this killer in the cabin, this killer in the woods, when really there's not. It's all the Wendigo. So right after Until Dawn in 2016, when it was really hype for VR, they came out with Until Dawn Rush of Blood. So this is a VR game. It's almost like a roller coaster, but it's all of these elements and characters and callbacks to the Until Dawn game. Then almost immediately after that in 2018, they made the Inpatient also only on VR. So these are the only two VR games from Supermassive Games, but they're really fun nonetheless. They don't really have that choose your own adventure style, but it is still in the universe of these games. After that, we have another unique one, which is Hidden Agenda. This came out in 2017 and is kind of a standalone thing because it is meant for PlayStation Play. I think it's technically PlayStation Party, but it's an app that you had to download to your phone, and then you can play with anybody from anywhere. So kind of like share play, but for example, like I would be setting up a party with my sister on PlayStation, sharing my screen, and then we would all be controlling the game through our phones. So I guess a little bit like Jackbox, more so, but Hidden Agenda then turned it into more of a party play. So I think it was fun for more like game nights at home and, maybe even like 2020 vibe of like, we want to have a game night, but we can't go anywhere. So Hidden Agenda follows the story of a man who's wrongly accused of murdering somebody. And now it's the whole next 48 hours while he's almost on death row that we have to prove that he didn't do it. So we're following this cop that's very hell-bent on believing that he did not do this and wants to find the truth. So that is Hidden Agenda. Now we start what are called the Dark Picture Anthology. So the Dark Picture Anthology is this group of choose your own adventure games that all kind of bleed together. We have this curator who is kind of like the master of the library. And he is helping us with hints and halfway points, all these things along the way to help us with our story. So it's not as much as Until Dawn of we just kind of have to see ourselves through it. We're getting these little blips of things that are happening with the curator in between our sort of chapters. So this starts with Man of Medan. That came out in 2019. It stars Shawn Ashmore. He was in X-Men. He's been in a whole lot of other stuff too. But Man of Medan, out of all of the games that they've created, is definitely my least favorite. It's definitely the shortest of the games. It's probably only about 6 hours. But the whole point of it is that you are on this scuba diving adventure. These two brothers, their relationship partners, and a couple other random people. So we're going scuba diving. We're having these proposals. It's very romantic. It's very cute. It's giving family vacation. So as our captain of the boat we're basically chartering it from her. She's driving in the middle of the ocean. We come across this ship. It's called Man of Medan. Don't know where it is. It's not on the radar. Let's hop off and check it out. So we spend the whole remainder of the game, I almost said movie, basically it's movie, on this ship, on Man of Medan. We're trying to figure out, is this a ghost ship? Is this an abandoned ship? What's really going on? We have these other people who are basically pirates who are trying to steal our boat and just kind of be shitty. They end up coming on Man of Medan as well. So then we start having these blurred lines between what is an actual human being, these pirates that we have to watch out for, whatever my figments of imagination showing me inside of this ghost ship, and what's actually real and what's actually not. I think what they did very, very well is the idea that this is all kind of rooted in reality. There's this like leaking gas basically from these treasure troves inside of Man of Medan, which is causing everybody to basically hallucinate and lose their mind. So there is a level of reality here, which I do appreciate, but there's very specific choices in this game that you have to make in order to stretch out the storyline and learn more about these characters. And if you don't pick them, you cut it down by at least 2 hours. So I think this, out of all the games, has the most potential, but doesn't necessarily live up to it. After Man of Medan, we have Little Hope. I could talk about Little Hope all day. I love Little Hope. This came out in 2020. This stars Will Poulter from We Are the Millers and Bandersnatch and a whole bunch of other stuff. Which again, I'm naming these people because I think it's just really cool that in a video game world we have actual actors. So Little Hope came out in 2020. It is very much a spin on Silent Hill mixed with the Salem witch trials. So we start as a bus driver who is driving all of these college kids to explore the town of Little Hope with their teacher. So we crash the bus. We're in Little Hope. We have no idea where the bus driver went. And now we're learning all of these things almost parallel to the people who we're talking about. So, for example, we start with Will Poulter. We then go to this house and he's like, I feel eerily familiar here. Like something is funky here. So then we get a past jump and we see that this is a house burned up when basically in one of his past lives, and he was the only one to escape. His whole family burned in this house, and now it's a bad memory, a bad stain. So Will Poulter in present is not the one who went through this house burning, but a past version of him did. So now the ghost of his past self is kind of coming out from this house, and we have to defeat it or he will die. On and on and on. Every single person has a reflective story like that, all tying them to the town of Little Hope. Again, very Silent Hill. So I will not spoil the ending because I think it is the best, one of the best twist endings in a video game ever. So I'll leave it like that. But Little Hope is, I would also say, the scariest by far of all of the games. It's very gothic. It has that metaphysical tie, which is cool with that past self stuff. And I just think that it's really, really great. The gameplay on that is a little bit longer. It is like 12 hours, which is nice. So yeah, there's a lot to do in Little Hope. Next up is House of Ashes. This came out only a year later in 2021. This stars Ashley Tisdale. This is it goes a little far into the sci-fi for me. We are these army military people in Sudan, and we experience this cave in. So underneath this cave now are all of these pyramids, are all of these statues. It's really this like almost Egyptian-esque underground layer, if you will, the city almost. So we're finding out all of these things that are happening in this realm, in this past world. We get snippets of it in the very beginning in the prologue of knowing that there's some sort of mysticism to it. And as we continue to play, we realize that there's these creatures that are kind of like aliens that live in these caves. And if you as a human get bit by one, you turn into this like rabid zombie. So again, it's a little far-fetched for me. I think that it's a creative direction. It's not a bad game by any stretch. It's pretty average in terms of length, but it is different. After that, we do have a little bit of a pause and a break. This is where the Quarry came out. So the Quarry is not part of the Dark Picture anthology. We don't have that curator. We don't have anything like that. The Quarry is supposedly related to Until Dawn, at least that they exist in the same universe. That is confirmed. So the Quarry, out of every single game that Supermassive Games has made, is by far my favorite. Little Hope comes in second, but the Quarry is absolutely number one. I can't tell you how many times I have played the Quarry. They do also have a really great feature in the Quarry where you can make decisions ahead of time and then just sit back and watch it as a movie, which I think is really creative because, again, these all end up playing out like movies anyway. We're just following the story. So we get to pick what characteristics ahead of time all these characters end up having. That dictates their decision in the actual movie. And then we get to see the ending and the result. This is also a really great blend of two different genres. So we have this summer camp, and all of our counselors are coming for the summer to start summer camp counseling. We start by following two people ahead of time. And also, this is very star-studded as well. So we have David Arquette, Brenda Song, Ariel Winter, and Skylar Grisando. He's from Vacation and The Righteous Gemstones. But we start with him and his girlfriend. And they're coming one night early to the camp. So we get pulled over by the cops, and they say, you can't go to the camp early. It's not open. It's closed. It's a full moon. You got to turn around and go get yourself back to a motel. They basically say, screw you, cop, we're going. We're not driving all the way in the middle of in the woods in the middle of the night for nothing. So we're going to go to the camp. So they go to the camp, and then they see this creature at this camp. And then we hear nothing from them after that, other than the fact that they're the two counselors that never showed up. So we get to the very end of summer. We're celebrating the end of the summer camp. We don't really get to see any activities at the camp. And now we're following our main 5 or 6 counselors at their last night. So they decide that David Arquette, who is the owner of this camp, he can leave. They're going to convince him that they're all going to go, and they're going to come back, and they're going to have this last night hoorah full moon party. So they trick him, they stay. Very long story short, we find out that there are werewolves all around. And this all started by a circus freak show that has crashed in the middle of the woods near Hackett's Quarry, which is the summer camp. So at this carnival, there was a little wolf boy. And so they advertised that he was a real wolf and that don't get too close or you'll get bit. So David Arquette, Mr. Hackett, took his kids to said carnival. They went to talk to Wolf Boy, and they both got bit by Wolf Boy. Finding out then on the next full moon that he was an actual werewolf, and now everybody basically in the town is turning into a werewolf because nobody knew really how to handle it. The cop is David Arquette's brother and is trying to help those counselors not go to Hackett's Quarry a day early on the full moon so that they don't have to deal with this werewolf infestation. That doesn't help, that doesn't work. And so our guy from Righteous Gemstones gets bit, and so now they're just sitting in a jail cell for all of the summer months, and he turns into a werewolf in the actual jail cell. So we're trying to navigate this survival, but also this really fun story. We're trying to figure out what the actual lore is. What is the truth? Was this little wolf boy from the carnival somebody that was real? We don't know. So we spend the whole time collecting all these clues. And what's really, really great, I think, is just so fun, is that not only are we collecting clues along the way, but we're also collecting tarot cards. And so our curator in this world is this old lady who we later find out is the mother of the wolf boy. So she's helping us along the way, trying to figure out the story as we collect and hand her tarot cards. But we don't get the full picture until the very end. So I know I spoiled that one a little bit for you, but it's absolutely worthwhile. I have zero bad things to say about the Quarry. I think that it is A+++++. I love it so much. So after the Quarry, our sort of side game off of the Dark Picture anthology, we now come back in 2022 with The Devil in Me. So The Devil in Me stars Jessie Buckley. She's from I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And this is all a group of students, again, back with the students, and they're all film students really researching and doing all these documentaries on H.H. Holmes, the very first serial killer who killed all these people at the World's Fair Hotel in Chicago. This comes from The Devil in the White City, which is a very famous book. Had to read it in school. It's a pretty cool story. So H.H. Holmes had this World's Fair Hotel where there's a whole bunch of trap doors and floors and walls that smush in and stairways that go to nowhere, all for the sake of trapping these people and killing them in the hotel. It is estimated in real life that he has killed over 250 people in that hotel. Not all bodies have been found. Not everything has been confirmed. But now these film students get invited to a real-life replica of the World's Fair Hotel for a one-time filming opportunity. So, of course, they take it, they go, it's in the middle of nowhere on this remote island. They get picked up in a limo, and now they're at this replica hotel. Unbeknownst to them, the walls start moving, the floors start dropping, and each of them starts getting picked off as well. So the whole point of inviting them there was to tape these actual killings that are happening in real time. So we're trying to figure out who's doing these things. We're trying to survive as well. We're trying to then also get to the very top of this island where there's an actual lighthouse to signal for some help. So it's cool. It is it's much more story based, this one, than I think really any of the other games, but the story does carry it. I think there's a little bit too much dead time in Devil in Me. You know, we don't really get to the actual castle and house hotel until like an hour into the gameplay already. So there's just a lot more fluff in this game, but it's still very, very good. And that is the last one that we have for the Dark Picture anthology. It is confirmed that in 2025, this year, this fall, we will have Directive 8020, which is going to be this space mission. So I'm very interested to see how they're going to play on the horror side of it and choose your own adventure, because we are in space. We don't really have anywhere to go. So that'll be coming out soon. Two other games of theirs to mention. In 2024, just this past year, we had the casting of Frank Stone come out. This came out from Supermassive Games. This is a choose your own adventure game, but it is tied to Dead by Daylight, which is another very famous horror game. I think they did a really great job of blending these two worlds together. I think it is just so cool. At one point, we're in this thrift store and we're seeing the Huntress's mask on the wall. We're seeing the bear trap's trap. You have all these Easter eggs. I mean, it is Easter egg central in this game. It's just really cool. I think the mysticism of this game kind of pulled it away a little bit. I would have liked to see more of the lore behind Dead by Daylight, but I really can't complain. This is also a relatively short game, but there are so many choices that you can make, and they even create this web for you. So it's a really cool menu feature where they have these film strips, and so it shows you which decision you've made on this film strip, and then you go on, and it kind of traces it for you, what your decisions were. But there are so many choices that you can see where you would have to play the game at least 15 times to be able to choose all of these things correctly. So the replayability of this is incredible, but it is a little intimidating, I guess. So that game, again, is a little bit shorter than I would like. It's probably about the same length of Man of Medan, about 6 hours, but it's a really unique experience and one of the one-offs as well. And then the last but not least, we have Little Nightmares. So Little Nightmares is a very popular, very famous game. Little Nightmares 1 came out by Bandai Namco. That is the company that redid Crash Bandicoot. So it's this very pretty game. It is kind of like Unwound, or I think Untied, whatever that game is with the little red creature. So it's kind of peaceful. It's good for a night like that. But Little Nightmares 2 and Little Nightmares 3 came out by Supermassive Games. So we just changed the actual production company, but wanted to add in Little Nightmares nonetheless. So this Friday, Until Dawn hits our movie theaters. It does not seem or appear like it is going to be too close to the game itself, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it does look like a really good, fun experience. So review will come out for that next week, no worries, and we'll see how it stacks up. But I'm a big fan of Supermassive Games. They all use Unreal Engine, which is the developing from Epic Games. So they're all very beautiful. These games are stunning. All the characters look great. By having these actual actors and actresses in these roles, you get the look for what they look like. You know who it is when you're watching and playing these games, which is really fun because it adds that layer of familiarity as well. So that is the list of Supermassive Games. Let me know if you like to play them, if you're intrigued to play them now after this, and what your expectations are for Until Dawn on Friday. So, as always, thank you for listening. I will catch you next week.